Hey, everybody, this is Patrick Aspolis with another episode of Banyan's Tire Tracks podcast. Today, I have a special guest with me, Bill Schroeder of ProShip. Bill, thanks for coming. How you doing?
Glad to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I just got a new haircut, so it's took a little off the top, but I think it looks out pretty well.
Yeah, I hope you didn't have to pay too much for that.
No, but I did tip way more than I should have. But anyways, wanted to talk to you, but Bill, for anyone who doesn't know you, who are you? What do you do? Who are you with? I mean, I know I mentioned ProShip, but take it from there.
Sure. With ProShip, I'm the president of ProShip and a couple other transportation execution systems within a company called Constellation. Constellation Software buys and holds software companies forever. So unlike a venture capital or a private equity investment where they might have a company for 3 to 5 years and then be looking towards the exit, Constellation buys companies, holds them forever, and tries to create long-lasting strategic value, both for Constellation, obviously, but also for the customers of that company.
And that when you say the forever, it was funny. You dropped that like forever, but no, I think that it really drills home that you're not in there for a quick flip. You're
Exactly.
there really to make something lasting out of it. Yeah.
And that really changes the way you think about customers, because you want to have your customers forever. It changes the way you think about organic growth. You're not looking for double-digit growth for 3 years.
It's got to be sustainable.
Exactly. It has to be sustainable. So you're not doing crazy stuff where you're growing like crazy for 3 years and then you have a hangover afterwards while you clean up the mess you made. It's a very long-term strategy. It changes the way you think about business and the relationship with your customers, because you're going to be with those customers. You yourself are going to be with those customers for as long as you're with the company, right? And
better back up what you say you're
going to do. Exactly. You got to live up to your promises and your commitments. Prior to ProShip, I spent 21 years in the parcel business at FedEx. So I was always involved with IT and software, particularly customer-facing software. So the ProShip transition was a natural one and feels like home.
Awesome. And then with Constellation, since we're talking logistics here, are all those softwares logistics based, or it kind of runs the gambit?
No, it's every kind of software you can imagine. There's more than 800 other software verticals in the Constellation universe. It's a Canadian company, and it was actually founded by a gentleman named Mark Leonard, who was a private equity investor. And when he was a young man, he had this brilliant idea. If we buy these companies and we work hard to make them good, solid companies, why don't we just keep them?
Yeah, why shouldn't we just continue to go down that road? No, that makes a lot of sense.
And that's exactly what he did. And now he's got a lot of copycats.
No, that makes sense. And this is just from my understanding, and I'm curious, within that Constellation world, do you ever marry the softwares together where it makes sense, or does that not generally happen? Like if one ends up being a accessory or a building block for another?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And the answer is yes. Sometimes we do either one of those. For the most part, the companies stand on their own and continue to operate very independently. So the overall philosophy is I know best how to do shipping and transportation software, right? So I don't have a central bureaucracy that shows up and says, here's how you should do it.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of part of the magic behind the whole thing. We know our customers, we know our software, we know our solution. We're the best equipped to deliver value in that space. So that, along with having the parent backing of a very large publicly traded company, kind of creates the best of both worlds, as optimal as you could imagine it being, being a very large company, but still having the independence to operate the way you need to take care of your customers. You get both of those things.
I like the sound of that, and that makes sense too. And it seems like specialization at a certain level is going to be much more agile than trying to go big picture the whole time. So yeah. Exactly. So where are you right now, Bill?
So right now we're at Converge, which is our user conference. We're in Nashville.
You got your cowboy boots on?
No, I don't have any cowboy boots. Good question, though. I really should have a pair of Wranglers and a pair of cowboy boots, right?
No, it's last time I was there, I was blown away by every shop had buy one pair, get three free. So it made me wonder how much cowboy boots actually were and how many pairs you generally need if you're getting into that lifestyle. So
Yeah. I think those cowboy boots are $580 a piece,
that's
and then you get three more for free. So it's a
that
bargain, right?
it's kind of like tires, right? You know, two tires is only $800 and we'll put them on and throw the other two in. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
So what are you doing in Convergence and what's ProShip doing there?
So Converge, Banyan's here at Converge with us. They're one of our partners. So it's a conference of both our users, our customers, and our vendors, as well as several of the other companies that are in our particular case, the supply chain portfolio. So there's ERP systems here that are part of Constellation. There are WMS systems that are part of Constellation, and the shipping and transportation companies, which I'm responsible for. Along with our partners who serve those same customers. So Banyan's here as one of our guests, as well as a few others. And our users are here to learn, to interact and network with each other. And it's how we stay in touch with our customer base, make sure that we're continuing to deliver the value that they want. We maintain the relationship and that the software and the company is headed in the direction that ensures we have, again, that long-term forever relationship.
I was just say, keep forever, right? Forever, not just a quick turnaround.
We don't just say this, we live it.
I like that. I can imagine somewhere in the building it's just forever, kind of a threat, a promise, and a way of life, you know?
Yes, exactly.
I like that. So we talked a little bit about ProShip just as far as the name and where it fits, but what does ProShip do within this logistics and shipping?
So, and that'll actually be a great segue into what the partnership looks like strategically between Banyan and ProShip. So ProShip is specifically in the parcel execution piece. And what that means is we support carriers. You would think immediately of UPS and FedEx and USPS as being
the big three.
Yeah. Right? And then there's actually hundreds more. And we do this globally. So what we do is create the interface between the customer and their technology stack, whatever it may be, and the carriers. And it's a very fluid and very dynamic space because of both regulatory reasons, market forces, and everything else that comes into play. Banyan in the LTL space is an area of expansion for us. We used to do a very small amount of LTL native application. We
like
focus
true LTL or just like ground freight.
True LTL.
Gotcha.
With a handful of carriers, and we have some roll your own capabilities for customers. But if somebody's 90% truckload or over the road in their transportation needs, they're not a good fit for us. So they might do 10% parcel and 90% truckload and over the road kind of freight. If somebody's 90% parcel and 10% other modes of transportation, that's a good fit for us, right? So that's why we built a little bit of native LTL capabilities or truckload capabilities. That's not a good space for us. We're not experts in it. We don't want to be experts in it. We want to be very, very good at what we do.
You want to keep in your lane. You know you're good at it. Let's not. It makes sense.
And that's when we reach out to partners. That's when we look to find a good strategic partner where an alliance makes sense, where they're delivering capabilities, and then do they fit integrated into our platform? So Banyan has a great set of APIs that we can use to leverage the integration to them and take care of an expanded offering of over the road capabilities. So when Brian and Alan were, when we were first chatting, it was like, this makes a ton of sense.
Now it was a chat. You guys didn't meet doing karaoke and were blown away by Brian or Alan's voice or something like this.
Yeah, no, it was close to that. It was very close to that. I believe the first interaction occurred eating barbecue in Memphis over a beer. So, and it just grew from there. That's where the partnership formulated. We realized we had a lot of common customers But what we weren't offering those common customers is a unified solution that was seamless.
So you
And
guys,
and
you
that
kind of,
started the journey.
you had a Reese's moment. You had the peanut butter, we had the chocolate.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That is
no.
exactly. That's funny because I use that analogy all the time. This is Reese's peanut butter cups,
Oh,
man. That is exactly what this is.
I was gonna say I might be like the last generation that'll get that, because my dad had to explain it when I was a kid, as far as the actual old school commercial where they had the two parts of it. But no, that's exactly what came to mind. Is you got one half, I have this. We put them together, we got a whole package. No,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
then as far as where do you really see in a, we talked about it kind of hitting a need, but why is this a strategic partnership? Why is this an advantage to your customers? I mean, obviously I talk about Banyan LTL for a living, but where do you see it in your words? Why is this a great move, a great partnership?
Yeah. So there's kind of a long answer to that. I'll make it very short.
I was gonna say, yeah,
ProShip.
do whatever you want.
Yeah,
Editing is possible,
there you go. So ProShip specializes in very large retailers and people who ship very high volume. So if you have 10,000 to 1,000,000 parcels a day, we don't think twice about it. If you come to us and you say, well, I want to ship 1,000 pallets, well, we're going to stop for a second and go, I don't know if I want to do that, right? So putting those two things together makes sense. Now, what we would have done in the past is we would have said, we're probably not a good fit. Here's a few other TMS systems that you should go look at. Not wanting to build in our own native capabilities for the over-the-road type transportation scenarios. We got asked more and more about that. And one of the things that started to emerge during the pandemic is customers who are actually mode shopping.
Okay.
So what we support is
Yeah.
is carrier shopping, or multi-carrier system,
Right.
that allows customers to find the cheapest parcel carrier that'll get their package where it needs to be on the day it needs to be there. Now, if I have to ship 20 boxes somewhere, the question that should come to mind is it cheaper to send 20 individual boxes,
Or should
or is it better to
consolidating
put them
this?
on a pallet and put that pallet with a couple more pallets and send it over the road in a shipment? So during the pandemic, everyone got real creative about how to move their goods where their goods needed to be. And they started seeking out capacity, because capacity was really in short supply. Then they also started to do it for cost savings, right? Is this a good way to replenish my stores versus some of the traditional ways I would look at doing it? Doing the mixed commodity pallets and stuff started to make a lot of sense. But how do I price that apples to apples with a parcel option?
Right.
A lot of complicated logic behind that. And they figured out, hey, this actually does make sense. There is savings to be found here. And there are, customer satisfaction opportunities with it as well.
And then, I don't know, and it's funny going back to, we both have kind of the same half of a different mode, because so much of what you're talking about is what Banyan does. We had the rate shopping between carriers, and then adding the multi-function and the mode. So I'll ask you this: Banyan's had parcel or add-ons for a bit. Why is ProShip different than those other options? What does ProShip do? Because everybody is in a space because they do something really well. Some companies are lucky enough to do multiple things really well. Why is ProShip as good as they are at what they do? What sets you aside? Is it just that volume, or how is that better done through the ProShip side?
Yeah, there's a few things. We have a few competitors in our space. They're good. They're good at what they do. We're better, I believe, and
I mean,
for a
obviously,
number of reasons.
we believe so too, or else we wouldn't have a strategic partnership.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I can really back that up. But the one thing that makes us truly significantly different is the people that we have and the tenure that they have in the parcel industry. So it's a very complicated, everyone, you put a piece of paper on a box that has a barcode on it. How complicated can that be? It's a lot more complicated than you think. And then to understand the dynamics and all of the different charges and the different factors that go into shipping a parcel, then do that at scale, and then solve problems when they come up, or react to carrier changes or regulatory changes.
Mhm.
And then when someone calls in for customer support, they have a very specific question. Do you have anyone on staff that can answer that? Do you have anyone? So uh, all of that, if you look up, ProShip on LinkedIn, you're going to find that our average tenure is around 8 years, which is significantly longer than anyone else in this industry.
I'd say
Parcel.
I'd say in most industries.
Yeah,
That's a pretty crazy stat.
so we're a Midwest company. We're family oriented. We're very. I like to say that they have a work ethic that drives a lot of people to find a job, and if it's a company that treats them well, they're going to stay there for a very long time. And that's what we have now. It's that continuity. It's that rudder that keeps ProShip on course and delivering the value that we need to. Now, the next thing we do is we do what we do faster and more reliably than anyone else. We have a rock solid enterprise technology stack that is designed to do what it does at scale. And then it has a number of very robust features built in so that it can remain elastically reliable, even if you're running it on a single server or across multiple servers in the cloud. It's just bulletproof. And I can tell you, during peak, our biggest customer went through all of peak this year at the top of the shipping days, did 3 million packages a day, and did not have a single hiccup.
That's wow. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
That's what makes us special. We like to think we're really good at what we do.
I was just saying that the fast and the speed and the volume gets you in the door, but that you don't just know Parcel, your people have lived it, is probably what makes it easy to stay there and that forever that we've been talking about. Yeah,
exactly.
No,
and we can grow with our customers. So
hey,
we hope someday they all ship 3 million a day.
Yeah, that's right. You'll help them. You'll be there for it, and yeah, keep it up, guys. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So we talked. You mentioned getting creative during COVID, especially with the mode shopping, not just looking at the cheapest carrier as well as looking at consolidation. One of the things I've asked a lot of people is since COVID, and I talked a lot from the LTL side. Capacity was limited. Now it's opening up. Things are changing. What does that look like from a Parcel side, or is it mirror it, or is there different takes, different trends going on within that world?
Yeah, we lived through the same thing you did. So the Parcel carriers, if you just look at it at the macro level, they tried to not be impacted. They were essential workers. They kept moving. They didn't lock down. They had to keep the whole world going, right?
Yeah.
But everybody else was locked at home shopping online. It's an old story. Everybody knows it. And within a matter of a month, all of the projections for e-commerce volume jumped ahead 10 years. And no one was ready for it. So supply and demand immediately were out of balance, and the capacity was constrained because of the demand was just much too high.
It was crazy.
So we all saw that, right? Now that's over.
Right.
I mean, we've gone, and everyone adjusted. They started building capacity faster. Yeah, customer demand's kind of tempering, right? It's still not back to what it was pre-COVID levels. We're still at higher volumes than that. And e-commerce shipping and shopping is still very, very much a real part of
right. I can't see people going away from being at home in the sweatpants, ordering stuff. So I know I'm guilty of Uber Eatsing a lot more than I should. Postmates or DoorDash, depending on what region is popular. But with that, is there any overcorrection that's really hurt? Did they go out and hire more people that now they don't have the action for, or what's the hangover, as you had described it before, from all of this?
Yeah, well, what happened is the big companies can't add capacity as fast as the smaller companies, right? So a large number of regional players, and this kind of, it's a great topic to get into, the big three, and then, there's a whole basket of regional carriers.
Right.
Some regional carriers play nationally, but they are looking for very specific parcels. They don't want to move everything. They just want kind of the stuff that the big three don't necessarily want. So we saw a real big increase in investment and in the creation of new startups in the parcel regional space. Now that has to be normalized. A lot of them are going back after some of the big three are going back after that business and those
Right.
parcels. And that's kind of where we're sitting now. There's some regionals. It was our expectation that those regionals would probably hit critical mass, and several of them have. On Track and Lasership are outstanding. You know, they've got good business plan, great execution. They manage their costs. They know how to do what they're doing. Some of the other startups were just learning how to do that, and then the volume tempered. And
rug got pulled out from under them. Yeah.
Exactly. UPS and FedEx we want those parcels back, and they went and got after it.
Now, do the big three in that case, and you may not, and you were with FedEx, and you might see, do they go after kind of like a venture capitalist and buy out any of these regionals, or do they just go direct to the client and say, look, we got the capacity, we got the name, come push it through us?
Yeah. What happened during the pandemic is the big shippers, they saw their ability to negotiate contracts kind of erode, right?
I got you.
It's like either one of us trying to go buy a car today and thinking we're going to get something less than sticker price, right?
I had to get it last year. I had to get a used car. Mine died a week before my wedding, and a lot of people tracked me down a good deal before it hit the dealer refresh. And I remember saying, hey, I'd be happy if we did this price, which I thought was fair. And the guy just laughed at me and he goes, if I don't get this amount, my manager will put it online for $7,000 more than that, and it will sell. And so it's funny you use that analogy. Yep. I was in there and I'm thinking, I'm a salesperson. I'll talk to this guy, get it straight. And it's like, nah, it's not up to me. This thing's gone. You want it now? We're willing to give it to you, or you're out of luck, man.
Yeah, it all goes back to basic economics, supply and demand, right? So if the supply is constrained, you get to pay whatever they want. And that's exactly where the big shippers were if their contract came up for negotiation. And UPS and FedEx could be picky about the packages they wanted. And then, of course, when that goes away, I'm sorry to back up just a second, the small regionals rushed into that space,
right?
And they said, I'll take those packages and I'm willing to do it for 1% less, right?
Yep.
So that whole scenario has kind of like worked itself out. Supply and demand are equalizing a little bit more now. There's some change and shift in the growth of consumer behavior in e-commerce. And that is starting to cause some stability back into the whole pricing scenario. That, of course, is squeezing those regional players out. If they didn't control their costs and build a good, efficient network, and if they were counting on that, that 3% premium that they could get, that's getting pulled out from under them right now. So I think we'll continue to see that trend evolve, and we'll still see regionals pop up here, there, and everywhere. And we'll see a few that are operating and executing well, continue to survive. They serve specific metro markets, and they do it better than the big three can do in that particular metro market.
You're great. You jumped to that. My next question is where the regionals are going to play versus the big three going forward. So I'll go to one that came up while you're talking. Do the shippers now that things have kind of, I keep using the word normalized and these different things, but it's all relative, but are the shippers able to kind of come back, and do they have the negotiating leverage again, or what's that?
Yeah, they do. And I would point anyone towards LinkedIn, and Nate Shriver has a great deal of analysis on this. He's an incredible wealth of knowledge. He has a very recent one on UPS's earnings for this quarter, where it was not what was expected.
Gotcha.
And even more so, the shipper volume was off of what they were forecasting. So that contraction, and it's not really a contraction, it's just slower growth, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's still growing. They're just not growing at what they thought they would grow at. So it feels like it's constricting.
how dare they not grow at another 200%, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, someone's mad upstairs. No, and you mentioned UPS. Now, I don't know if it's accurate enough, but I'd heard a few things through different clients, the upcoming or the possible UPS strike. Is that something that comes into your mind, or that your clients are worried about, or looking how they're going to move things through?
Yeah.
Just as we're talking parcel, it seems relevant.
It's probably the number 2 question I get, right? And I'm not going to pretend that I know the answer.
Right.
What I do know, and I'll get to my non-answer on that in just a second.
Fair
But
enough.
I actually started in 1997 in the transportation industry, right?
Right.
First day at FedEx, UPS was on strike.
I was going to say, I just looked up about a week ago as I was kind of doing some research for these questions, it was like, when was the last one? And 97. Exactly.
Yep. I literally had started, and I was going to work in IT, right? I was going to, man, I'm going to use a keyboard, right? And the first thing they do is point at the truck, tell me,
grab
well,
a
go
box.
Get on that. Go get on that truck. You're going to be running around with this courier. I was like, really? Yeah, I can do this. It was a blast. We had so much fun. You'd pull up to a FedEx drop box, and literally you couldn't even see the drop box. Customers would go to the drop box, and if it was full,
it was close enough.
Their boxes on top, around, on the side. They'd be in the road. I mean, and we fill up the truck and we take it back and empty it, and then we go back.
Yeah.
The rest of it, yeah.
Do a lot more back and forth than normal, that's for sure.
It was absolutely insane. Now, do I think they're going to do that again? I have no clue. What I do know is, with the softening volume and UPS not having necessarily the results they expected, who knows, right? Now, here's what I do tell people, and this is wise, and this has worked for the last several years. If you had gotten on board with ProShip 5 years ago, our mantra was, you want to use us because Amazon has free shipping. Right. Now, we all know free shipping is not free.
It's built in somewhere, but if you see that it says free shipping, you like it better.
Yeah, and you're going to buy, right? But you as a shipper, you have to pay for those parcels, right? So if you can find 1% savings, you take it, right? That's 1% that's going right to your bottom line, because you got to pay for the shipping no matter what. And the best way to do that is to have options, to have multiple carriers. It's not always intuitive. A Zone 7 package with one carrier or another carrier, even if you've negotiated exactly the same discount, after you add in all the accessorial charges and fluctuations and fuel surcharges and everything else, you can find 1-2% without even trying, right? Just shop between the multiple carriers. The next point when it came up, and there was another great use case, is diversify your risk. If one carrier's got all the volume and they're not going to take any more, you got to have someplace else to put it. You might as well have that built in. The strike scenario is exactly the same thing. Diversify your risk. Single carrier strategies made sense back in the 1990s, when you could bundle all of your shipping together with one carrier and negotiate a better deal than you could with 2 carriers. It hasn't been that way for at least 15 years. You can negotiate good deals with both of them. You're going to get marginal, incremental, better deals if you bundle all your volume, but you're also taking on a whole bunch of risk.
Right. That makes sense. It's very similar to kind of just standard financial and investing wisdom.
Diversification.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
No, that's
so if UPS goes on strike, I can tell you for a fact, most of our customers will not care one bit. Now, there are a couple,
because they've already got the other big 2 there, and probably a handful of regionals.
They got a bunch of options. Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a good non-answer. I like that. So with that, and we're talking a little bit about future here. And I know that one of the biggest asks, even from when I was a BDR, just calling people, setting up appointments, to now talking to my current clients within Banyan, is kind of that, AI is everywhere. And then there's multi-mode load consolidation, having something pick how to run, this handful of things you need to ship, two of them parcel, 5 of them LTL, and then get a full truckload because that's the cheapest or fastest. What do you think is that's what the future holds for parcel, or what is, what's 2 to 5 years down the road for parcel look like? Or is it kind of the same as it is now? What technology is coming in that may change it, or what interests you about the future of parcel or even logistics as a whole?
Yeah, right now, and this is very early on and it's emerging, there is some machine learning and AI being applied to it.
Mhm.
So the current, I y'all can fact check me on this, but the current zones that we have that the big carriers use follow the postal zones.
Right.
It's the same concept. If you start out on one coast or the other coast is 8 zones away, right? It's
yeah.
like big stripes across the country.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you think about it, that probably worked great for the Pony Express, right? If you were
Right.
leaving DC and you had to deliver a letter someplace to the middle of the country, that's like 1, 2, 3, that's 4 horses away,
Yeah,
right? You're going to use 4 horses to get there, and that's how much it costs.
exactly.
And literally, that's where a lot of that, the foundation for what we think of as zones goes back to, right? How far
Right.
can one person ride one horse in one day? Let's call those zones. Okay?
Yeah.
So, and then here we are. So that is not a good way to price parcels, right? Inside of a zone, you're going to have metro areas where drivers making many stops. It's very dense. It's very efficient. And you're going to have rural areas where somebody's driveway is 1.5 miles long. The cost to serve those customers different. Something has to be done with pricing. What the carriers have done is they've introduced a whole bunch of accessorial charges, rural surcharges, ultra rural
They
surcharges,
sure have, haven't they?
all kinds of crazy stuff. What they're trying to do is in a not very granular level, charge what it actually costs to do some of these things.
Without being
That doesn't
completely
make
surprised
any
on the
sense
back
at all.
end. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just, that doesn't make any sense. We have the technology now to actually know exactly how much it costs to deliver something to Patrick's house.
Yeah.
We can do that, right? If Google can map from here to there and tell me exactly, well, surely we can figure out how much it costs to deliver it right there instead of saying, well, he's a zone 3, so, and then let's stack a charge on it and another charge because he has a long driveway.
Now, is there a either an investment of money to get that to happen, or is there money hidden that somebody's gaining from not letting that happen, to why that hasn't gone closer to that yet?
I think it goes both ways. One has just been inertia and tradition. I mean, the zones are well understood by thousands and thousands of people. It's a mechanism that
if it ain't broke,
worked.
Don't fix it. Yeah,
exactly. Now, on the flip side of that, now that we have the technology to really do that down to a very granular level, the carriers are starting to look at it that way, and they see an opportunity. If you are delivering 90% of your packages to zone 3, but it so happens that inside zone 3, they're all going to Metro Atlanta, and they're all going to customers perhaps in Buckhead because you sell high-end handbags, guess what? You should get an incentive.
right.
You should not be paying the same price everyone else pays for zone 3 over in the Atlanta area, right?
Okay.
So can I give you an incentive to ship there? Can I give you an incentive because you ship there that your packages cost me less to deliver? And yeah, the answer is yes. We have the data now. We can manage it down to that level.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that coming as the big change. I see much more dynamic pricing occurring because there's volume fluctuations seasonally. There's volume fluctuations day by day. If we can do something to give you an incentive to ship that package on Tuesday instead of on Monday, why not? Right.
That's right. Same way the restaurants got cheap burgers on Mondays when people aren't coming in, right? Something to get you to move it when it makes sense to them. No, that's a great point. I like that. I like that as something I would have never considered. And that's why I ask questions, not answer them. But
I'm sure there's something I could ask you questions about.
Yeah, nothing you want an answer on. Definitely not anything we want recorded. No, but no, I'm kidding. No, but no, I really appreciate that. But and then not but I don't want to take up too much of your time here as we're kind of winding down, and you've some great points. And I know I'm really excited about the strategic relationship between ProShip and Banyan. Here's kind of I like to give everybody that I talk with, they hear me talk, but here's your soapbox, your moment. What's your message to either any of your clients or anybody in the parcel or logistics industry that might be listening to this as a whole? Here's your chance. What does Bill have to say?
Yeah, you should probably get a job in a different industry.
Damn, heard it here first. Bill says, sharpen the resume.
No. All right. So total sarcasm. There you go. No, we were, prior to the pandemic, one of probably the least thought of industries. The stuff just shows up on my porch. I don't know how that happens, right?
And then you hit the news every day for 2 years in a row.
Yeah. And then suddenly major universities start offering degrees in supply chain, right?
Yeah.
Like suddenly this is the new sexy job and career to have. I think that's awesome. It is. It's definitely an interesting industry. It continuously changes, and then parts of it continuously stay the same.
And it's not
People
going
need
anywhere.
goods and services, right? Stuff is physically going to have to move, no matter what happens. Everything else goes digital. Nobody buys DVDs or CDs anymore, right?
Drug Mart and Walmart are still trying to get me to buy them out of the basket, but I don't know who's making them still. I hope that they're 10 years old and they're just still trying to move them around
and clear out some inventory, right?
Yeah.
That's not the problem you're going to have in supply chain. I think online shopping and commerce, until I don't know, some people think 3D printing is going to replace it forever, right?
Or we get some teleportation in there, but then we got a whole slew of other problems, right? Yeah,
exactly.
We'll find somewhere to be relevant. No, Bill, thank you very much for the time today. Really excited about the partnership between Banyan and ProShip, and I hope you have an exciting rest of your time there at Converge. And really appreciate you talking to me. I learned a lot. I generally do. I don't know if that says more about who I'm talking to or how little I know, but thank you very much. And I'll just say to all the listeners out there, thanks for listening to another episode of Banyan's Tire Tracks. We'll have this up with any more of our behind the scenes footage, maybe even the full unedited with Bill here. No, there's nothing really dirty or funny behind the scenes. It's all right here. But yeah, Bill, that's it for me. I'm going to leave the meeting. David, do you need anything from me before I cut this out? But yeah, no, thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.